Today's program is brought to you by OTCStockShark.com. For the latest and greatest OTC and Pink Sheets information, sign up for your account at OTCStockShark.com. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
In today's financial news, after resisting for much of the week, the stock market finally toppled under a barrage of disappointing economic news and mixed earnings reports. The Dow Jones Industrial Average sank 261 points, or 2.5%, to 10,097, its lowest since July 7th. It was the worst one-day sell-off since June 29th. The Nasdaq Composite Index fell 70 points, or 3.1%, its lowest since July 8th, and the S&P 500 fell 31 points, or 2.9%, to 1,064. Every Dow component was down. The least bruised names were relatively defensive companies like AT&T and Procter & Gamble, each down about 1%. The worst performers and General Electric down 9% and 5% respectively. Each reported second quarter earnings that beat Wall Street forecasts, but also declines in revenue at an inopportune moment just when the economy seems to be losing momentum. The latest evidence that came from the University of Michigan, which reported its Consumer Confidence Index dropped in July to its lowest level since last August. Economists expected a much smaller decline. In today's U.S. news, investors fretted about possible seepage from BP's capped Gulf oil well, and speculation grew about assets the company may sell to pay multi-billion-dollar costs for its oil spill. BP shares, which had been rallying over the past 3 weeks, slipped 2.6% after the top U.S. government spill officials said that engineers had detected seepage, raising fears of problems with the cap that stopped oil spewing into the water nearly 3 months after the rig explosion. A BP spokesman said that the seep was detected by its engineers, but it was unclear whether the source was the blown-out well, adding that seeps were a natural phenomenon in the Gulf. The company said in a statement that it had spent $3.95 billion so far on efforts to tackle the well, and that it aimed to permanently kill the well in the first half of August. BP choked off the flow a mile under the water's surface with a cap, marking the first time oil has not spewed since an April 20th explosion on an offshore rig, killing 11 workers. National Incident Commander Admiral Thad Allen said in a statement that he had sent a letter to BP stating that there were a number of unanswered questions about the monitoring systems it committed to as a condition of the U.S. government extending the well integrity test. An engineer said that it continued to run an integrity test on the well, on which it placed a cap last week that appeared to seal the well, and the pressure continued to rise. This is the worst oil spill in U.S. history and has caused an economic and environmental disaster in 5 states along the Gulf Coast. It hurt President Barack Obama's approval ratings and complicated traditionally close ties with Britain. In today's international news, the last time Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was in Pakistan, she was asked why the United States persisted in killing innocent civilians with its secret program of drone strikes. And she speculated that officials in the Pakistani government knew the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden and other leaders of al-Qaeda. The mood was less charged this time, which may not have been surprising given that Mrs. Clinton brought $500 million worth of American aid to fix Pakistan's power grid and to help with water distribution. But the deep gulf of misunderstanding between Pakistan and the United States was still on vivid display. The second day of Mrs. Clinton's visit to Islamabad, she prodded Pakistanis to do more against Islamic militants and explained why the United States was reluctant to share nuclear technology with a country that has a history of proliferation.
You're stuck on a treadmill. You're making minimum payments on your credit cards, and you just don't get anywhere. Let Consolidated Credit tell you the truth. When credit card companies are charging high interest, it's virtually impossible to pay off your debt. Let's say you owe $5,000 and your rate is 21%. Of your $100 minimum payment, $87 is interest. It'll take you over 33 years to pay off that debt. Call Consolidated Credit. They'll get the credit card companies to reduce or eliminate your interest. Get off the treadmill. Get on with your life. Call Consolidated Credit. They're the freedom people.
Call now, 1-800-775-8196, 1-800-775-8196.
Consolidated Credit. When credit card debt is the problem, they're the solution.
In today's entertainment news, in recent years, Comic-Con has helped launch major films like Iron Man, Twilight, and Avatar to tremendous box office success. And the number of movies and TV shows being promoted in 2010 seems larger than ever for what once upon a time was merely a gathering of comic book fans. Major studios and TV networks are showing reels from movies such as Alien Invasion Battle Los Angeles or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, hoping to tap into an influential group of pop culture watchers, so-called boy fans, primarily males between the ages of 18 and 34. Stars on hand include Bruce Willis and Sylvester Stallone. 3D movies are big this year, as are films and TV programs that appeal to young women, which are among the gathering's fastest-growing audience. Comic book legend Stan Lee said if fans go to Comic-Con and they see something about a new Marvel movie, or Thor, or Captain America maybe, that they like, they suddenly start texting or twittering about it. Stan Lee is also the subject of a new documentary debuting at the convention, With Great Power, The Stan Lee Story. Around 126,000 pop fans of comics, movies, video games, and TV are expected to descend upon the San Diego Convention Center for the annual show, which starts with a preview July 21st and runs through July 25th. Walt Disney Pictures has dubbed this year's events Comitron and dedicated a full one-hour panel to the 3D film with its stars like Jeff Bridges and Olivia Wilde. In today's tech news, Apple chief executive Steve Jobs defended the iPhone 4's design, saying reception issues were a problem shared by the entire smartphone industry, naming specifically rivals Research in Motion, Samsung Electronics, and the HTC Corporation. At a rare 90-minute press conference, the Apple chief maintained that there were no problems with the iPhone 4's wraparound antenna design and said that the issue was blown way out of proportion. On the antenna issue being an industry problem, Steve said, the heart of the problem is that smartphones have weak spots. We made it very visible. This is life in the smartphone world. Phones aren't perfect. Most every smartphone we tested behaved like this. There is a problem, but that problem is affecting a small percentage of users. On the design on the iPhone 4 antenna, Steve said, we're pretty happy with the antenna design. We're not feeling right now that we have a giant problem that we need to fix. Steve Jobs said that they are trying to get to the bottom of the issue. Steve said, we have been in the lab working our butts off for 22 days, and it has taken us a while to get the data. If we had done this a week and a half ago, we wouldn't have had half the data that we have shared. Steve Jobs also had something to say about all the criticism about the company. I guess it's just human nature that if someone or some organization gets really successful, there's just a group of people who wants to tear it down. I see it happening with Google. I look at this as a whole antenna problem thing and say, wow, Apple has been around for 34 years. Haven't we earned the credibility and trust from some of the press to give us a little bit of the benefit of the doubt? In today's health news, researchers from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that there is little need to worry about serious side effects if your toddler is getting vaccinated against whooping cough. They said our findings provide reassuring evidence that the vaccine is not associated with acute seizure events and is safe for routine immunization in early childhood. An earlier version of the vaccine had stoked concern because it tripled the risk of fever-related seizures in infants. While most such seizures are harmless, they are frightening to watch for parents and could cause babies to choke on food. The new study is the largest so far to look at seizure risk with the current vaccine known as DTaP, which has been recommended in the U.S. since 1997. It includes data from more than 430,000 infants who were vaccinated between 1997 and 2006. The researchers followed the toddlers until just before they turned 2. Most were given 4 vaccine shots starting at 2 months of age. About 5,200 of the babies had seizures at some point, but only 112 occurred within the 4 days of the shot. The seizure rate during these 4 days was about 1,200 per 100,000 infants followed over a year, compared to a baseline rate of 1,000. And when accounting for other factors linked to seizures, such as the age and the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, infants actually had fewer seizures in the days after their shot than at other times. Again, the difference could have been due to chance. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
The makeup in today's program is provided by MAC Cosmetics.